Good morning and welcome to the Kim D. Davis Show. This morning we have a special show. It is a celebration of men, and I have three dynamic men on the panel today. And I want to start off with Kelly Greene, who is an author, blogger, philosopher. Good morning, Kelly Greene.
Good morning, Kim. How you
Good morning.
doing?
And I forgot to add, he's a mental health advocate.
Hey, I take that.
Good morning. My next guest is Samuel Beals. He is a sergeant, first class, retired after 22 honorable years of service to our country. He is a federal investigator for the EEOC. He is a husband and father and community advocate. Good morning, Sam Beals.
Good morning. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for being on. And last but certainly not least, we have Hasani Ali, who is an author. He also is a podcaster of Coach's Corner Ali, and he is half of the dynamic duo that is known as the Twin Flame Coalition. Good morning, Hasani.
Good morning, Kim. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Cannot complain at all.
Great. I am so excited to have you guys on. And today we're going to talk about raising children. We're going to talk about mental health, and we're going to talk about relationships. But I want to talk about the elephant in the room right now, what's going on in our country. We just saw a couple days ago that George Floyd was murdered in the street. We've seen video for Ahmaud Arbery. We've heard witness statements for Botham Jean. We've heard witness statements for Breonna Taylor. We've heard witness statements for Trayvon Martin and haven't seen justice. And it seems to be right now that there is an all-out campaign on our community by the police. And it's frustrating as a mom of two boys. It's infuriating. And I just wanted to hear from the three of you this morning what you're feeling, what your thoughts are, and how do we best proceed forward. And I want to direct that first part of the question to Sam, if you could answer all three, actually.
Well, the situation in my prayers and prayers goes out to the family, but it's like it's a constant state of being infuriated with these situations because it's been stated by people that we are dealing with this again, but it doesn't really ever stop. As a father, as a African-American male, this has been something that I've had to grow up in. And then, you know, as you age, and I'm 50 now, you have different philosophies. I've had a career where I've served my country. I'm a community activist. I try to teach the right things, but then society constantly sends counterproductive messages now on video. And we still, as a society, don't have an opinion that what is right or wrong because people are still using statements like they're waiting for the facts. So it's infuriating for me. As a father of daughters and a son, I'm always concerned. It's a high state of vigilance at all times for me. So that's it in a nutshell for me.
Okay. Next, I want to direct the question to Kelly.
Let's just be real. Nothing never stopped. We're just videotaping now. We're just talking about it now. So you figure the Ahmaud Arbery, the Mr. Floyd, and you go back to Mr. Gardner, and it never stopped. We just videotaping it now. My parents grew up in Jim Crow South, Mississippi. Still visit, and truthfully, it's disconcerting. I have been to Medgar Evers' house and seen the bullet holes. I've seen the bullet holes in my great grandfather's house, and they are still trying to kill us for nothing but speaking up for ourselves. So I think until we start to talk as one voice, it'll continue to happen. My son is 18. He's bigger than I am. And if police would see me as a threat, they would definitely see him as a threat. So I have to have ongoing conversations with him about when the police are around, calling me first, you know, and we have a plan in place that in case he's even confronted by cops, it's sad we have to do that, but we have to do that.
Thank you, Kelly. Hasani, I want to direct the question to you.
So both the brothers made excellent points on, how it's infuriating as a father to know that your child can encounter something like this. But I'm actually looking at the bigger picture. What both brothers said were correct, is that this never has stopped since we've been over here, since this country had been in existence. And the problem is now is we as a people still have a civil rights mentality. Every time something happens, we want to march, we want to protest, we want to do something symbolic in order to get that moral victory. But everyone seems to understand that money creates power. So until you find a way to put money in someone's pockets to make this stop, or you find a way to affect people's way to make money, then they're going to continue to do it because there's no ramifications or no consequences for their actions. They know that we're gonna be upset. We're gonna stomp our feet and do symbolic messages, do the internet campaign. Once they get fired or transferred, we think the fight is over, and they're still gonna be working. They just go to a different department. And so we need to, until we come up with an economic plan to put a stop to this, it's going to continue, unfortunately.
Thank you for that. And you're absolutely correct. Until we find a way to empower ourselves, empower our community, things will still continue to be the same. I was
wondering if I could add something to that.
Yes, please.
Because this is burning me. Because I had some uncomfortable conversations with people. Some I served with, they weren't black, they were white, and they have a certain amount of cognitive dissonance when it comes to these issues, where they know it's wrong, but they're afraid to say it's wrong and pick a side. This is a problem for us as far as the victims, right? And I think Hasani's right. Until we have something that's tangible that they have to respect, then they will not stop it. But when this visits the doorstep of a white parent, then, and only then, in my opinion, and I'm speaking only for Sam Bills now, will it become an issue with police brutality in general? Because it's always that's a black person that got killed. That's a male that got killed. It constantly segments itself. What we have not seen, caught on video, rumored to happen, is a police officer taking his authority as a public servant and exercising to the point where somebody white dies. When that happens, unfortunately, America's conscience and the character of a police officer will be addressed in. That's Sam Bill speaking. That's nobody else speaking. I think that's what it'll take to actually, along with Hasani's idea of having an economic presence, where they understand that if you do this, we do that. But when they can see and feel it themselves, then perhaps America's conscience will wake up.
Absolutely, Sam. Thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting that you say that, because I hear about cases or read about cases where there is police brutality, but it will be with someone who may have some form of mental retardation, or it'll be somebody who was doing something considered a black activity, like selling drugs or slumming in some type of area and doing some unsavory things that they shouldn't have done. And so you're right. Until we have someone of value in the white community, it will not reach the public's concern like it should. And we see that with coronavirus right now, that when it's thought to be an African American or a community of color issue, it's not necessarily as important until it hits the greater white community. But I want to move on quickly, just to keep up with time. I want to talk about something that, Sam, that you mentioned. You talked about children. And so in this climate, you talk about having conversations with your children. What are some of the challenges that you have as a father talking to children? And what is your greatest fear as a father? Sam.
My greatest fear as a father is failing my children. And I do my best to keep the faith, to put that in God's hands to guide me in the direction where I can be the best father possible. The challenge as an African-American father in trying to educate your children on the American society, and at the same time, make them understand that you are just as much as an American as anyone else. Your people have done more for America than anybody else. So every right that exists belongs to you. But in a way where you teach them that where they don't feel like they need to resent the people that are responsible for what your people have suffered. That's a challenge. I don't think it's a society anywhere in the northern hemisphere of the world where you have a people that are a citizen that have to teach their kids, you're a citizen, but add a caveat to these are certain things that you're going to have to make sure that you have a distinct knowledge of on how you got those rights. Other Americans, particularly white Americans, they can go a lifetime not knowing anything about the Constitution, not knowing anything about why a Civil Rights Act came about, not knowing how to code switch to get a job. Our people have to do that. And so as a father, I don't want to create a situation where my children's peers who may be of a different race they build a wall up. I want them to be able to get along with everybody, but they have to have a consciousness to what society means to you. And that's a significant challenge for me as a father.
Thank you. Kelly, your turn.
Things that have, I'm a mental health advocate, especially men's mental health. So my thing is make sure my son is not affected by what's going on around him, but make sure he can affect what's going on around him. He is the change. He is the next person up. I always tell him, like, whatever you see doesn't have to be. You can put yourself in, in position to make change. So if for me, being a father trying to build my son up, in a world that's trying to tear him down and tearing his father down, tearing his brothers down, tearing, all the African American men around him down. So my thing as a father is build him up and let him know what he's seeing is not how it should be.
Great. Hasani?
My biggest fear as a parent is not giving my children the tools they need to achieve their dreams. A lot of times, a lot of problems can be solved if our children are actually fulfilling their purpose. And a lot of times as parents, and even for our parents, a lot of parents are dream killers. You have people who have aspirations to do great things, but they get shut down by their parents because their parents are going the secure route. Go get an education, go get a job, and work for somebody. And then when you're secure, then go to try to pursue your dreams. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having a job, there's nothing wrong with having education. However, if your child has a burning desire to do something, that's their creative energy that they're trying to express or trying to get out so they can produce something. But a lot of times we want them to take the safe route, and a lot of people who work jobs know jobs are dream killers because every day you get up, you clock in at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, work someone else's dream for 8, 9, 10 hours. You come home and you don't have any energy left, and that slowly kills people. And then you become a, I won't say a drone, but you're just a piece of human capital that works for 40, to 50 hours a week, serving someone else's dream. And I don't want that for my children. I want them to do whatever they desire in their hearts to do and give them the resources to do it.
Excellent. So I want to go back to that point that you said, Hasani, and Sam, I'm going to come back to you because you said something very similar. But Hasani, if you were talking to fathers, how would you encourage them to encourage their children to follow their dreams?
First, that's getting to know your children. Just finding out what they like and why they like it. Perhaps they have a hobby. Maybe they don't know that if they like computers, maybe they should go into IT. If they like putting stuff together, maybe they need to go to a trade, become a mechanic, a plumber. It's just a matter of finding out what your kids' talents are and how they can turn that talent into something that they can monetize. So it's just a matter of just paying attention to your children and finding out what their strengths are and basically consolidate those talents and make it into something great and say, hey, have you ever considered doing this? It's similar to what you're doing, only you have to, put these pieces together instead of these pieces, and you actually get paid for it. And when children find out that they can make money on something they like doing, they'll pursue it.
Absolutely. Kelly, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, because I was guilty of that, because I didn't get the chance to go to college. And I looked at myself as had I went to college and learned how to write then, I wouldn't have to work for a job and write. So I was telling my son to go to college, go to college, go to college, you know, and that's the key. So we had a conversation not too long ago. He just finally broke down and told me he wanted to go into robotics and learn how to be an electrician. So I had to adjust my thinking because I was trying to push upon him, you know, where I failed and not really pay attention to where he was trying to go. So that took some bidding on my part. And then we were getting into it. You know, we we're going to get him situated, we'll get him a apprenticeship somewhere. We're going to do this. But I think as parents, we too much imprint upon them our goals, and then we look at them through our failures, and we don't give them a chance to beat them.
Absolutely. Sam, you said one of your greatest fears is failing your children. Can you expound on that? What you meant?
Failing them in the sense of not sharing my mistakes or putting pressures on them to do things that I didn't get to do. I mean, my oldest child is 30, so I mean, and my youngest is 10. So my oldest child got to experience that cookie cutter you get when you're a young parent. Everybody graduates high school, everybody goes to college. And I tried to push my daughter in that direction, and I did not really know her, like Hasani said, as to what would make her happy. And I wasn't concerned with that as a parent. So part of my issue with failing them is not being a person that's willing to allow my kids to be the best person they can, the way they have to be, and support it. So what I've learned is that the best thing you can do, sometimes it might be a little bit outrageous, but you have to first never tell your kids or even give the inclination that they can't do what they're telling you they're going to do. Mm-hmm. You have to let them go with it. They'll find out eventually if it's a limit to their talents. But you, as a parent, as Hasani said, you cannot be that person to instill that doubt in your child. And that's the key to me, because I'm like, I see these things as a 50-year-old, and I want to make sure I never try to impart that wisdom as to a fact to a 10 or a 13-year-old. I want to make sure they get an opportunity to spread their wings and fly as far as they can, because they're probably going to outfly me.
Excellent. Thank you. So now the next question that I want to talk about, relationships, because all of these things tie in together. And so you all are dynamic fathers. You all have dynamic women in your lives. Hasani and Sam, you both are married. So we're going to talk about what the secret is. So hopefully you will tell us what the secret is to staying married longer. Kelly, you are in love right now. And so we want to hear about dating life. But in terms of relationships with your children, how can women, especially mothers, how can we support you? And what would you like to see us do? And I'll go to Sam.
What can mothers do? Mothers can hold fathers to a standard. That's key. Because once the child's here, that parent that you decided to give birth, that's the parent. So the standard starts before the child gets here. But you have to be supportive, and in the process, before you even get to the childbearing age, that you want to be with somebody where there are some common goals, some common alignments in character, and some common things that you have, and you have to be friends. So when it comes to the ideal of support from a parent, it's equal. Each parent is going to have a role in it, but far and foremost, it's going to be the woman, and this is Sam Bill speaking, holding the man to a standard as to what the expectations are in a relationship when you become a father, and kind of being able to understand that the way you're being treated as a date, as a potential spouse, as a fiance, or whatever, it's pretty going to much be how your children are going to be treated, especially if you have daughters.
Excellent. Hasani?
That was an excellent point the brother just made. What I would say, what the mothers can do is be your husband's biggest fan. The struggle with men, and with Black men in particular, is that fatherhood is a thankless job. You're just expected to pay. You're expected to be a service to your wife, to your children, to the community, and no one really kind of thanks you for it. It's just kind of what you're supposed to do. And so when the mother is encouraging the father every day, cheering him on, lifting him up, fulfill his responsibilities, not only will it motivate him to do more, but it will also and make the boys inclined to be fathers. Because a lot of what you're seeing out here in today's time is nobody wants to be fathers because they see that it's a responsibility for the rest of your life that has no, I won't say reward, but again, I would say it's a thankless job. It's just, dad's supposed to give me money, dad's supposed to teach me something, dad's supposed to give me this, and then on the husband end, dad's supposed to provide, dad's supposed to take me out, husband's supposed to do X, Y, Z. And so the more you encourage a man and know that his value means something to you, the more he'll continue to do it. And the more you encourage him and the more you get out and say, hey, this is what my husband does for me, or hey, this is what my dad does for me, then it shows that his work is not going without being acknowledged. And that's important.
Excellent. Kelly?
One thing I want to tell women, and just accept the fact that your child's relationship with their father is going to be different from your relationship to your child. Don't interfere with that. A lot of women see their child relationship with their father and want to pick at it and scope it and dissect it and criticize it. And no, just step to the side, let the father have a relationship with their child. It's going to be different from yours. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Trust me. But it's needed. We need that one-on-one time. We need to know that, that personal relationship. Because we're not perfect, but we can teach our children why we're not perfect and how to overcome things with our alone time.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, gentlemen, we have to take a break, but stay right here. We'll be right back. You're watching The Kim B. Davis Show.